Welcome to the Murder and Movies podcast, M&M for short.
Not sponsored.
Where once a week we gather and talk about the darker sides of film, pop culture, and true crime.
There's really not a light side to true crime.
Today, if you can't tell by the title, we are going to be talking about my favorite movie of all time, Coraline. I made her watch it. She hadn't watched it before.
I watched it for the first time last night.
And?
It creeped me out.
Yeah. I think that's why I like it, because it's so creepy.
No.
I think I have like a dark soul.
I have like a weird reason for not liking that kind of movie. When I was in preschool, I would go to daycare, and I had older sisters who were also in the same daycare. And for some reason, this daycare assumed that they would want to spend more time with me. They didn't, and so they moved me up to an older daycare class. And so I was watching all of these movies that I shouldn't have been watching at a younger age. They were rated PG, but they creeped me the heck out because I should have only been watching
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, not PG rated movies. Now I just have a fear of a lot of really mundane movies because I watched them too young. The original Jumanji, can't see it. Anything claymation, can't do it. Anything Tim Burton, out of the question.
That explains why you don't like this movie. I like it for that reason. I grew up watching Jumanji. I grew up watching the scary movies, the spoofs one. Hilarious. I was a child watching this. I grew up watching a lot of movies, like you said, I shouldn't have been watching, but that kind of made me want to watch them even more. I don't know. I love these type of movies, especially when you look at how Coraline was made. It makes you have a respect for the artistic of stop motion.
Yeah.
Because I could never. I do not have the patience or time to do that crap. I could never.
Imagine if you accidentally knock something over.
I cry.
You'd have to start over.
Cry. I could not.
Absolutely
There
not.
was a stop motion class at my school. Could not.
Did
Never
you take
would.
it?
Hell no. Today we are going to be talking about Coraline. I know you didn't like the movie, but that's okay because we're going to talk about it anyway. We're going to talk about the different symbolisms and fan theories about the movie, which there are plenty. It's a child's film. There's so many freaking fan theories. And I think it's because it started off as a book. It was published in 2002 by Neil Gaiman, who is somebody you apparently know.
Yeah, so I participated in a reading competition in middle school.
Nerd.
We won. We were the best. Fight me. One of his books was one that we had to read. It was really good. It's called The Graveyard Book. 10 out of 10 recommend.
Neil Gaiman, he wrote Coraline. It was published in 2002. It didn't become a film until 2009 and was directed by the same man who did James and the Giant Peach and Nightmare Before Christmas, which explains a lot.
Tim Burton.
Not Tim Burton. Believe it or not, a lot of people accredit this movie to Tim Burton, but it was actually another guy named Henry Selick. Apparently a very big guy in this movie industry. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. He did James and the Giant Peach, which I loved that movie when I was a kid. Loved that movie.
I think that was the one claymation movie that I was able to watch, actually.
And it was also a book.
Oh,
so maybe he's all into the film adaptations of stuff. I wonder if that was stop motion.
I definitely think it was. Looked claymation-y.
He took on the role to end up making this book into a film, and originally they were going to make it, believe it or not, a live action. Who the hell a live action Coraline?
Imagine the poor kids that would have to act in that. That's horror. Also, the buttons.
Yeah, the entire thing is a
that?
live action. So the reason that they ended up not making a live action is because around that time the whole Cat in the Hat movie had come out. And you know Mr. Bobinsky, Mr. B, he has his whole dancing mice and that whole circus thing. He thought it would look too cartoony and people would it would give that Cat in the Hat vibe and would be less scary.
So he wanted the creep factor.
Yes. I mean, the book was advertised as a dark fantasy child's novella. So I think he wanted to keep with that.
How on earth did that marketing make sales? What parent looked at this book and went, a dark child fantasy novella? Sounds perfect for Jimmy.
Hey, he made bank because this book went on
to
win a bunch of awards, and then the movie went on to win a bunch of awards too. So they made bank.
Okay.
Happy for them. I don't know if you could tell in the movie, but something that I did not notice until after was, you know who voices Coraline?
No.
Freaking Dakota Fanning.
No.
And now I can't unhear Dakota Fanning's voice when I hear Coraline. Another side note, because you were talking about he had a character named Nobody. Coraline was supposed to be named Caroline, but it was a typo. He was like, Coraline? Well, that sounds like somebody. I'm going to keep it at Coraline. And he just stuck with Coraline. And it becomes a running joke in the books.
Yeah.
Caroline. It's Coraline. All right, Caroline. Took them 18 months to film this.
Yeah, because you got to do all those, like, centimeter movements.
Yeah, when normally, like, a live-action movie would take, like, 3 to 4 months, this one took 18 months. Can you imagine working on the same project for 18 months? Never mind, I did a senior thesis.
Yeah, I was
Still.
about to say, senior project.
But, like, oh, my God, you must really have the patience or drug money to do that for 18 months. Spoilers, I don't know if you would have picked that up from the beginning, but yeah, we're going to be spoiling this movie, so maybe not watch this. And we're not going to be talking about the book, and I know there's a big difference between what happens in the books and the movies, as far as character, plot, all that stuff. We're specifically talking about fan theories and all these things within the movie.
Because
not
it's
the books.
Murder in movies, not murder in books.
So there's a bunch of symbolism. I'm not going over every single one because there's a bunch of symbolism in this book and in the movie. But I will go over certain ones that stood out a lot to me. So one of the first ones that I saw was the beginning scene where the doll, Beldam, is taking the doll and she's like, taking the hair off, the eyes, the stuffing, all that stuff.
Yeah, that was very creepy.
It symbolizes Beldam's art of manipulation and control over kids. So the dolls, of course, like she was making the dolls are alternate realities of the kids. They are foil characters.
Okay, yeah.
The opposite, if you are a good person, this is your bad person. That's your foil character. So the dolls represented that, and they were her spies. Because I don't know if you noticed in the movie, the doll was spying on Coraline. There's a scene where she's lying in bed, and the doll is facing forward. And then there's like a time progression of her laying in bed, and somehow all of a sudden the doll's looking straight at her in bed.
I did not notice that. That's so creepy.
In the movies, that's what happens. In the books, apparently it's the mice that are spying on her, but I think it's creepier with the doll.
Yeah, no, it's way creepier with the doll.
Especially when you see it in the movie. Like, it's very subtle that the doll will, like, shift and look at her. Something that I hadn't noticed that I think I should have picked up, but I'm not into, like, the occult and witchy type stuff, so maybe that's why I didn't. But there's a lot of references to the occult and witchcraft. So in the beginning, she has, like, the dowsing rod.
Yeah.
It was looking for the well, and YB calls her the water witch. And then you notice around the well, there's a circle of mushrooms.
Yeah, I noticed that. I thought that, so like I said, I had never seen the movie before, so I thought that was, like, the portal. I was like, oh, she's standing in a fairy circle. Like, that's the portal.
I had never heard of a fairy circle.
Really?
No, I never picked that up. But yeah, it's a fairy circle.
Yeah.
Did not know. And then her dad, when he was cooking for her in the kitchen, he called her his twitchy, witchy little girl.
First off, don't call your daughter that, but like also, okay, yeah. So I'm from this city, like the county that I was like raised in is called Chatham County in North Carolina, and it's known for what's called the Devil's Tromping Ground, which is like this giant circle of area where nothing grows.
I have seen that.
Yeah, and so if you try to spend the night in it, apparently you'll like wake up outside of the circle, and for a while I was super interested in all of that stuff, which is like how I learned about like fairy circles and all that.
But anyway, so now we're going to get into some of the fan theories because, like I said, there's a bunch of symbolism, but I think the thing that most people are here for and what I enjoyed were the fan theories.
Well, can I ask you a question really
Yes.
fast? Was that kid's name Wyborn? Like, why were you born?
Yeah, because she makes the jokes. Why were you born?
Who-
Why born?
Who names their child Wyborn?
So again, I have not finished the book, but YB is not in the books.
Oh,
He was added as comic relief to the movies.
hear me out. Other YB was not comedic or a relief.
Yeah, I should really finish the book, but I didn't know YB was Beldam.
Absolutely not.
So yeah, fan theories. One of the ones I had heard about already, but I was like, I've heard about this and I cannot tell you where I've heard about this, but Mr. Bobinsky, you know how he's blue? He's not only blue, but he has like this little medal that he wears on his left-hand side. Never notice it because it's very subtle. He's a big round man.
He's a large man. He got a lot of leg.
Yes. He has this medal on his left-hand side that apparently clues you into his backstory. People theorize that he was part of the cleanup crew for, I'm going to mispronounce this, Chernobyl.
You pronounce it correctly.
Yes. They think he was part of the cleanup crew for that, and that's how he got his blue skin. And the award that he has on him is very specific to a cleanup crew that helped in the aftermath.
Interesting.
And that could also probably explain his accent.
Yeah,
I don't
he
recognize
definitely
his
was,
accent.
Russian.
Yeah, I don't recognize it specifically where it's from, but it's not from here.
That's interesting. I didn't even notice that he had blue skin. I just thought that was like
part of the claymation choice. Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, because I have not seen the Chernobyl documentary that's on Amazon.
Sure. I don't know.
I don't know anything. I didn't know anything really about this. All I knew was that there was an explosion and a lot of people were exposed to radiation. They said it was way more radiation than what had happened at Hiroshima, which, there's people still suffering from that years, decades later that still are affected by the radiation that happened there. And they're saying Chernobyl was like worse than that.
Yeah, so they have the largest fallout zone. So like you cannot spend more than like a few minutes in the Chernobyl fallout zone. And there's like obviously like rings around the where it happened. And so like you can't spend a lot of time like uncovered in the areas. You have to constantly be measuring the radiation levels. The pictures from the Chernobyl fallout zone are insane because when it happened, like people were just living their normal lives when the nuclear power plant melted down. And so they had to like leave everything. So like you can go into houses and see where people had like set up dinner or like were in the middle of a meal or like schools where they were in the middle of doing schoolwork, like a hospital.
What's crazy to me is that I thought that so many people had died instantly from that. No, only 2 people technically died from the explosion, but it was the radiation that happened that thousands of people died and would get cancer later on and still were being affected by it.
Yeah, it was the fallout, not the explosion.
One of the things that I had noticed ahead in the film when I was watching it, because I've seen this movie so many freaking times, and each time I feel like I notice something different. But you know where she goes to the other world and the other father is at the piano and he's singing a song?
Yes.
So let me read the lyrics to you real quick. Making up a song about Coraline. She's a peach, she's a doll, she's a pal of mine. She's as cute as a button in the eyes of everyone who ever laid their eyes on Coraline. When she comes around exploring, Mom and I will never ever make it boring. Our eyes will be on Coraline. He makes it sound so cute, but when you read the lyrics, it's so creepy.
Especially knowing about, like, the button and, like...
She's a doll. We'll have our eyes on Coraline. We'll never make it boring.
Yeah.
Like, he's pretty much saying the whole plan. He's like Mojo Jojo. I'm going to tell you my whole plan so you can ruin it. But he sung it in a very happy song.
Yeah. Like, it was a very fun, upbeat song. I was like, oh, what was wrong with the song? It was so cute. Like, I was bopping.
No,
That's
Father was
creepy.
spilling all the tea. So shout out to my little sister September because she was the one that told me about this theory, and it is the welcome home cake that she's given when she first gets there. Mm-hmm. So on the cake you see the words are written out welcome home.
Yeah.
And there is a double O made on the home. Apparently, according to people who study writing, I forget what is it called. Something that I don't study that sounds super, super fancy. Graphology.
Sure.
AKA the analysis of patterns that occur in handwriting. The double loop in the lowercase o in home indicates that someone is lying. But the O in welcome is not double loop. So in theory, it's saying you are welcome, but you are not home.
Interesting. I don't know if anyone else caught this. I feel like most people definitely have. But like the other father's garden was like almost all carnivorous plants.
Who the hell would have caught that? I'm not into plants.
Like, it was all, like, pitcher plants, and, like, I don't know if snapdragons are carnivorous, but they were, like, trying to bite her, and, like, I think they were, like, Venus flytraps. Like, it was mostly pitcher plants, which are, like, a carnivorous plant.
See, that's new to me, because I'm not into plants, so I never would have picked that up. So this is a fan theory that I hadn't even heard about. It came from Fangirl, a YouTuber called Fangirl.
Love that for her.
She came up with this theory. I don't know if she did it independently or with people, but this is who I know had talked about it. You know when she goes down to see the 2 older women, right?
Yes.
And they give her taffy. Like, they're in, like, 3 bowls in this box.
Yeah, and they, like...
Yeah, and the dates at the top. There's dates at the top. The dates are 1921, 1936, and 1960. And apparently these dates correspond with the ghost children when they disappeared.
Really? Why did they have candy from those?
Another fan theory that like struck me to the core, because I was like, there's no freaking way. So how do you feel about YB's grandmother?
She was cute.
That bitch was suspicious, apparently.
She was?
Apparently, according to this other fan theory by blogger Tessa K, she says that she was working with the Beldam. She actually sent Coraline to the Beldam.
No.
And the reasons for that kind of align and kind of make sense. So one of the reasons is Mrs. Lovat, who is YB's grandmother,
yes,
feared that the Beldam had gone so long without eating that it needed a child's soul, and she was afraid it was going to come after YB. And YB had made mention of this in the very first scene where him and Coraline meet, is that he was surprised that his grandmother was allowing them to rent the house, because she never lets them rent out to people with children.
Yeah.
But now she is. So you had made mention about the well, right? Like how you thought it was a portal. So both of the things about Mrs. Lovat and the portal well kind of like correspond, because there's a theory that the well used to be the old portal before it became the door.
Oh.
And so when they're theorizing that Mrs. Lovat had taken her sister's doll and thrown it down in the well, hoping it would kind of contain the other mother's like presence in the world. And so in that very first scene, we see the doll come from the sky, right?
Yeah.
And land in her hands. And then she's able to take it apart and change it into Coraline. And then she sends it out and it goes right back up. And then YB finds it. And it kind of makes sense because YB had made the comment of it's so far deep that if you looked up, you will only see the night sky. And in the other world, it's nighttime all the time.
Yeah.
And then when she has like the bet with the other mother, and you look up at the moon and you see like the thing creeping, the button creeping over the eye, it's not actually a button, it's the top to the well. I can believe that Grandma was involved in that a little bit. She was kind of suspicious. Little things are too coincidental. I'm like, I don't know, maybe Grandma knew because she didn't rent out to kids, so she knew something happened to her sister. Like,
yeah, that's the one that I am the most like, holy crap, like that seems like it could be legit.
Side-eye Grandma now.
Yeah.
One of the biggest fan theories I came across, and the last one that I will mention. Well, the last big one that I will mention, because there's one more I want to talk about, because you had mentioned your love for the cat, but I didn't do that much research in it. I just want to kind of throw it out there and leave it.
I have other questions for you, too, after this theory. So.
Okay, cool. This fan theory is that Coraline actually never escaped, which has my mind blown.
What do you mean she never escaped?
She never got out of Beldam's, like, loop, like her grasp.
I'm going to need more info on this one.
Fangirl, shout out to you, the YouTuber. Apparently, this is her theory. Coraline would wake up in her bed instead of traveling through the tunnel to return back. And that happened multiple times because for her to get there, she had to travel through the tunnel. But every time she woke up, she somehow landed in her bed.
Yeah.
And the Beldam is known for manipulating reality. She can create anything. She created a whole world and people and living organisms. She's a manipulator.
Yeah.
There's that. Then there's the fact that magic starts happening in the real world after she goes there. So we see when she was looking for her parents, she saw her parents that were in the mirror.
Yeah.
And that was in the real world.
And the food was rotten.
Yeah, like how long has she been gone?
Yeah.
There's the fact that at the end of the movie, we see your favorite person, the cat, teleport.
Disappear, yeah.
And he could only do that in the other world. Originally, when we saw the garden in the other world, it was shaped like Coraline. And in the real world, it's still shaped like Coraline.
Well, I mean, we don't see that it's shaped like Coraline.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, you do?
In the very end scene, at the very end scene, like when they're like zooming out and everything, the garden is still shaped like Coraline. I haven't done too much into this one, but people are assuming two things about the cat. One, that it was working with the other mother.
Okay.
As a spy, which could explain why it's able to come and go as it pleases.
Yeah.
And why at the end of the movie it teleports, and it was so helpful to Coraline. Also, I don't know about this one, but they're theorizing that the cat is the great grandfather of YB. I don't know. That is reaching. I don't know how they got there. I'm sure there's examples and reasoning for how and why they feel the way that they do. But they're theorizing that the cat is the great-grandfather of YB.
So the grandmother's father is a cat.
Yes. I don't know how they got there. I really want to look more into that one.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look into that one because what? What? Yeah, I just like the cat because he was nice, and I like cats, and he seemed chill. He seemed like a chill
sassy.
man.
I like that.
Oh yeah, he was very sassy. When she was like, "You called me this," and she was like, "I'm sorry." It's like, you should be wuss puss.
Wuss puss. That's what it was.
Yeah. The cat really came in clutch at the end. Like, if they did escape, he fully attacked that woman for her.
Not that he had a choice.
Yeah, she did throw him, but
she yeeted him.
She did eat him. Okay, so my questions that I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
So they were in an accident before they moved, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the accident is why they moved.
No, the accident happened as they were moving.
Oh, okay.
So there's two theories about that I've heard
Oh my
about.
gosh.
One, when the mother's complaining to Coraline about the accident, that the parents were going to try to commit insurance fraud somehow. I don't know about that one.
I love that.
But then I also heard that in the accident, the parents actually died.
Okay, yeah. That one I feel like, because the mom was wearing a neck brace the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she good?
And they neglected her. A lot of the times Coraline was alone.
Yeah.
And Coraline was just like envisioning her parents being there, and they actually died.
Yeah, interesting. And then, okay, so that was my big question. And then just some other smaller questions. Why was there like a nude scene in Coraline?
Okay, that is one of the most uncomfortable scenes in this movie, and it feels so out of context and unnecessary. Like, we get it. She got some big old titties, but we don't need to see it.
Yeah, like literally I was watching it and I look up because I was also like just playing on my phone because that's what I do. I look up and I'm like, oh my God, those are boobs. And my fiance like whipped around like, are you watching a children's movie? And I was like, I thought so.
Just like a man, he's boobs.
Yeah. Why is there a nude scene? Like, she's not fully nude. If you haven't seen it, one, why are you here? Go watch it and then come back and listen to us.
The
but
nips
like,
are covered.
Like, literally, that's it.
It's full on big jugs.
And then they like
face.
unzip themselves and they're like skinny queens. And I'm like, what?
That's a scene that I can never like get over. And no matter how many times I watch the movie, I still like, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Every time I see
there was
big
just so
old
many
titties.
things I was like, what is happening?
Again, the same guy that directed this also did Nightmare Before Christmas. So at this point,
yeah.
LSD.
Also, like, the colors, too. The colors seemed, like, brighter and happier in the other world than they did in the real world.
Yeah.
And I was like, did that reflect Coraline's mood where she was, like, more depressed and, like...
Yeah, everything's sad. She's neglected by her parents. But over there, she's the dancing mice.
Yeah.
There's a garden. She gets fed. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. If you haven't seen Coraline, definitely go watch it. If you have seen Coraline, let me know any of the fan theories that you have heard about that we did not touch on in this one, or symbolism that you thought was like shocking, or any of the fan theories that you're like, that's too far-fetched, I don't believe it. Let us know in the comment section if you have any suggestions for future videos. Also leave those on there. Follow us, like us. We're on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. I should really remember all of these because I always get stuck. But we're also on YouTube. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you all next time. Bye.